evening and welcome to the Easton Film Festival cable show. As you see, I'm all by myself in the studio tonight, but here for a couple of very special shows to highlight a recent film happening in Easton. I'm Lauren Swartz. I am your hostess. And again, welcome to our show. You can catch us every Monday and Tuesday night on Channel 9 here in Easton. And the Easton Film Festival sponsors several activities in Easton throughout the year, most notably our foreign film series, which we hold every other week at Andrew's Bakery over there on Belmont Street across from Stonehill College. We have a couple of great upcoming films in February. This coming February 6th, I encourage you all to come to Andrew's for the premiere of The Color of Paradise. It is a wonderful film from Iran, subtitles, about a blind boy and his family and his life. And it was just, I loved it so much, so I hope you'll go. The Easton Film Festival also sponsors our annual film competition, which is going to begin advertisement and notification shortly. The notice will be on our website, eastonfilmfestival.com, as well as in the Easton Journal. So please keep your eyes open for notice of the date. And the competition is open to filmmakers in Easton and also Stonehill College to submit your films in documentary and also drama fiction categories. So it's open to all ages, all abilities. We encourage you to do the research and on our in the newspaper and on our website. Anyway, to the point of our very special show tonight, Filmmakers of Easton, we had a very interesting, fun and exciting competition a couple of weeks ago called Film Jam. It was held over the Martin Luther King holiday weekend. We gathered together teams who drew film genres from a hat, a film category, so to speak, as well as a line of film dialogue. And each of these teams' job was to create a film over the weekend, film it, envision it, film it, edit it, caption it, and submit it by the end of Monday evening. And then the following weekend, we all met at Andrew's Bakery. We premiered the films, and everybody who was present got a chance to vote on the films. So it was a lot of fun. It was the first time we had done this in Easton. It was very, very popular, very successful. I want to thank all of the teams for entering and for all of those who showed up to vote. I'm encouraging all of you to keep an eye out in the paper and on our website for the next competition, which will be held over 4th of July weekend. The same format is going to happen where teams will meet, and teams can be anywhere from 2 to, 25 people if you want, to meet. Again, draw a film genre out of a hat and envision and develop a script based on your genre and also incorporating your line of dialogue. What I've done tonight is bring together 2 of the films that won in the competition, discuss them a little bit with you, also talk about what the genres are, so that those of you who are familiar with film and filmmaking, this will be a little bit of a refresher course. But we're encouraging all of you to learn more about film, filmmaking, styles, and this is one way we hope we'll get some of this enthusiasm out to everybody. Let's see. So the first film I'm going to share with you tonight, the genre was Western. Most of you should know what a film Western is. Some very notable Westerns are High Noon, which was made in 1952. I did a little research during the week. It starred Gary Cooper and Grace Kelly. Most of the famous Westerns, of course, were done in black and white. Another very popular Western was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, my personal favorite, that was done in 1964. That was with with Paul Newman and Robert Redford, excuse me. those are some of the immediate, very popular westerns that come to mind. Something a little further back, between High Noon and Butch Cassidy, was a film called The Magnificent Seven. For those of you who are real film buffs, you might remember that one. That was a very famous John Sturges film, very raw, let's see, gut-wrenching footage. Yul Brynner was in it, Steve McQueen. You know, primarily westerns were dealt with men, and women were the sidelights. There have been a few more modern day female westerns, but none that are really of note yet. Anyway, one team, Bobby Anderson and team, drew western, and so this was how they first, that was their first assignment. The line of dialogue that they also chose was "My Mind Is Going." That is a line of dialogue from 2001: A Space Odyssey, for those of you who are familiar with that film. So their assignment was, of course, to create a western, have that line of dialogue incorporated, and only have the film run for 5 minutes. So on Martin Luther King weekend, when it was about 7 below, this is what this team produced. So if we could premiere the film now, I'll share it with you, and let's talk about it a little bit afterwards. So I present to you My Mind Is Going by Bobby Anderson. Oops, Zen Cowboy, sorry.
This is Baba Anderson's terribly intelligent investigative reporter here today in Easton. We're here to talk to Mr. Young Un, who is a Nitsai, and we want to find what it's like being that. And we found him here, home at the range. Do you have time? Can we talk?
Since I will be immortal, I'll have lots of time.
Oh, I'm so pleased. What possessed you to come here to the West, being a Nitsai as you are?
If by being Nyotsai, if by saying the word Nyotsai you mean my being a cowboy, my Zen master asked me to go to the mountaintop in the east. And I meditated on the mountaintop. And something told me that I had to come here to Easton, to experience the richness of the West before I found the answer to the Zen koan that my master gave me.
That's very, very interesting. What is it that you Nitsai do here in the West, in Easton?
I'm still in the process of discovering what a Nitsai should do while pursuing the answer to my Zen koan. As you notice, behind my range is the back outside. There I've cut grass, as my neighbors have done, enjoying the pleasures of cutting grass and being out on the range. I also retire to my shop, as many of my male brethren do, to work with wood, to cut with big power tools. I must get rid of my pesky dog. Get along, little doggy. It fell over. Quiet. Which reminds me, did I tell you once when I was meditating, did I tell you about meditating on the mountaintop?
You did, and you can go on about that. I'd love to hear.
On the mountaintop, in a moment of quiet, as I was facing the Pacific Ocean, my mind said, go west, young man. And so I went west to Easton.
So your mind is going west?
That's what it said. It said precisely, my mind is going west. My mind is going west to Easton.
And then your body followed along.
And then my body followed along. You know, in the Zen tradition, the mind and body connection is strong.
I know it now. Thank you very much. I'm noticing it is starting to be sundown.
It is. And where does the sun set in Easton?
It sets towards that way. It does.
In Weston.
Yes, to the west.
Well, my time is getting short. I'm done cooking, as you can see, my bountiful meal, and I need to get ready to ride off to Weston. And as I've seen other American Yotsai do, they put on their coat, never take off their apron, they put on their hat, and they ride on their big horses, and they ride off into the sunset. Bye-bye, Babua.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Young.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now you've seen Zen Cowboy by Bobby and Neil Anderson. The line of dialogue they had to incorporate was, "My mind is going," and this is how they chose to incorporate that into a Western. And again, one of the challenges for that particular weekend, which became a handicap for all of the teams, was it was about 8 below, and so to do exterior shots and incorporate a film, it was very difficult, and especially with a Western. Most of the time, as you know, Westerns, there's outside shots, exterior shots. The interior sets were very rudimentary, but there were some very famous Westerns that incorporated the Middle Eastern and the Far Eastern touches, and Bobby and Neil so delightedly incorporated their neighbor into what they called Zen Cowboy, their Western, incorporating their line, "My mind is going." So thank you so much to Bobby and Neil. It was wonderful to see that and to see how they overcame the coldness of the weekend to produce this very delightful film. So another entry that we had, our third place entry actually, the team of Bill Little, Jan Little, and Bill Ames drew historical drama or historical fiction out of a hat. And historical fiction, many times they come out as great epics. Whether the Ten Commandments is fiction or not is a discussion for another time, but some very more current examples of historical fiction or historical drama are The Right Stuff with Scott Glenn and Sam Shepard. That was done in 1981. Also the film Gettysburg, that was done in 1993, about obviously the Battle of Gettysburg. These kinds of dramas, you take a factual occurrence and make it more personable by showing the people who were there, individual stories, how they were affected. They may not be, these characters may not be people who were in history, Abraham Lincoln or you know, any of the original astronauts in space, but it's how it affected all the other people. So historical drama, historical fiction is always a wonderful topic for filmmakers. More recently, Gladiator with Russell Crowe. It's difficult to know exactly many of the characters' feelings, emotions, and activities in the Roman gladiator times because we don't have a lot of, obviously, writings about them. So when a producer like Ridley Scott, who did Gladiator, or let's see, Philip Kaufman did The Right Stuff, when they delve into more of the character's emotions, the romance, what they ate, their pain, whatever, it brings this sort of a story more to our hearts and makes it more real to us. So again, the team of Little and Ames drew historical fiction, and the line of dialogue that they drew is from Jaws. The line of dialogue is, "We're going to need a bigger boat." If you remember the film, the shark, the orca, is literally eats the boat and becomes a very frightening element of that film, Jaws. Anyway, incorporating "We're going to need a bigger boat" into a historical drama, historical fiction, also filming it within the same 72 hours that the rest of the teams had. Bill and Jan put together their interpretation of a local Easton historical occurrence, the Great Flood of 1968. So I would like to present to you now their interpretation of historical drama using the line of a dialogue, "We're going to need a bigger boat." So I present to you the Great Flood of 1968.
Well, Barbara Healy and I had decided to take a walk down to Fred's Pond to see how high the water had actually gotten. And at that point, we were just excited about the rain, and that we had had several days of rain, and people were talking about all the rain. But it really didn't mean much to us until we got down to Fred's Pond. And when we got down there, the cars were having trouble passing from Fernandes Market going towards the Rockery. And we couldn't walk through the water because it was rushing over so fast. We had to get up on the wall and actually walk across there. And when we were doing that, knowing usually we walked on the side where the railing was, and now we're on the stone wall and actually watching the water rush from Fred's over to the meadow on the other side. And it was at that point that we realized it was a little scary, not just exciting. And just watching that water rushing was really something to see. And then we ended up going over to Fernandes Market, and that's where we saw Mr. Worcester. And he asked us how we were getting home from there, and then we said we were going to walk back the way we had come. And he said, there's no way. The water is now up over the stone wall, which was just the way we had come probably 20 minutes earlier. So he ended up giving us a ride home through Southeast and past Morse's Pond, which at that point was still intact. The dam, nothing had happened there. And we came up Center Street to home. Looking back on that now, I think to myself, what an exciting day it was. It was exciting because of the rain, seeing all the water, and it was also pretty scary realizing that it just wasn't fun going across the stone wall, but it was actually kind of scary because now we couldn't have gotten back home unless Mr. Worcester had been there to give us a ride home. So when I look back, it was really a pretty frightening day. But at the time, I'm not sure I realized just how scary it was.
So the flood of March of 1968 was absolutely one of the saddest days of my life. It was when my good friend Georgie died. Georgie and I were both about 13 years old that day, and Georgie and I had been best buddies since the first grade. We did everything together. We fished together, we swam together, we played baseball together, we smoked cigarettes together. Every single thing we did every day we did together. We were out fishing that particular day, even though it was raining. We thought it would be fun to be fishing out in the rain. As we were fishing, the water began to rise. We said to ourselves, how are we going to get out of here? And we looked over and we saw a small skiff. And so we were able to get over to the skiff. We jumped into the skiff. The skiff, unfortunately, was extremely small. Georgie was a little bigger than I. There was a surge in the water, and sure enough, the boat tipped, and Georgie fell out into the water, splashing around, yelling for help. What was I going to do? I tried to pass him the oar so he could grab onto it and pull him in. He just couldn't grab it. It slipped out of my hands, and Georgie went under the water. I was beside myself with despair, absolutely did not know what to do. Maybe about 5 or 10 minutes later, as the water was rising, the boat ran aground right near where the Children's Museum stands today. I scrambled out of the boat and ran as fast as I could up to the Lincoln Street School where George and I went to school each and every single day, looking for the highest possible ground that I could find. After Georgie's body was recovered, his parents wanted to see me and talk to me and hear what Georgie's last words were. And those last words were, we're gonna need a bigger boat.
there is the Little and Ames production of The Flood of 1968. If you do not know Bill and Jan, the story of his friend Georgie is a complete fabrication. So you have to watch that film with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek because it was all made up. Bill is a great, he has a great wit, and he's very sarcastic, and when he produced this film and the audience saw this, as sad as it seems to come off on the TV, we were rolling in the aisles laughing so hard. This was their interpretation of how to create a historical drama, to get their line of dialogue. We're going to need a bigger boat involved, and it is, the flood itself truly happened here in Easton, for those of you who remember it. But there were no deaths attributed to the flood. So for those of you who didn't remember hearing about this, there were no deaths. Bill made that up for you know, a particular dramatic point in the film. So, but we enjoyed watching the film. As you can see, on a frozen weekend, writing about a historical event, the most they could think of was the flood in Easton. On a weekend when it was 8 below, there is not a whole lot of rushing water to be found anywhere, so the frozen ponds had to suffice. And again, it made it all the more clever how they incorporated the flood. But Bill and Jan and Bill Ames, who was the cameraman, did a beautiful job. The dramatic music set the scene, and I think it was really a wonderful effort, and we enjoyed it very much at the Film Jam. There were about 40 to 50 people who joined us for the final voting, which was really exciting. People told their friends, their neighbors, and we are looking forward to having, you know, twice that many come to our next Film Jam. So again, please keep an eye out in the newspaper and on our website for the notification. The Easton Film Festival website is eastonfilmfestival.com. It is wonderfully sponsored by ClearPoint Communications. They host our website. On that website you can find our schedule of our foreign film series, as well as upcoming notices about the film competition and about Film Jam. I want to also take the time to thank everybody here at Comcast, the station here who helps us put on this show, and we come to you every Monday and Tuesday night. Robin and her crew here are so wonderfully nice, help us set up our cameras, have taught the crew how to run a TV show. And I encourage anyone who's interested in TV production, sound, graphics, set design to please contact the station here, because they are always eager to produce new shows, to train new people in all of the aspects. There is a huge market out there in the job industry, obviously. So everybody here at Comcast is wonderful. So if you haven't had a chance to come over to the Easton Industrial Park, please do so, because getting involved in this particular show, all of the other shows that are produced here, we broadcast through several areas, is a wonderful experience. And for any age, from high school on up, you're welcome. I also want to make a point of very generously thanking Julie and the folks at Andrew's Bakery, who so kindly hosted us for the Film Jam a couple of weeks ago and will continue to host us. They also stay open late for us when we have our foreign film series. And there's sandwiches, soups, baked goods, coffees, teas. So when you are watching the films are free of charge. And Julie's baked goods and soups and things are welcome and available for you to purchase. So I encourage you to come to Andrew's Bakery every other Friday night for the film series. It starts at 7 o'clock. Mr. Edward Hand, who's a humanities teacher over at Oliver Ames High School, has chosen the films for the year. He screens the films, and then after the films, we discuss them in the audience. So it's a wonderful way to learn different kinds of films, to have film talk, similar to like a book group, but you don't have to do any homework. You just can come watch the film and talk about it afterwards. So I encourage you to please join us. The February films, February 6th is The Color of Paradise. I mentioned it's from Iran. And then 2 weeks later is almost one of the most famous foreign films around, Il Postino, from obviously Italy. From a few years back, it won, had Academy Award nominations, and it's a delightful, delightful film as well. So please stop in to see the foreign film series. Take a look on our website as to what the upcoming dates are. And before I close, I want to thank all of you for joining us once again for our 7 o'clock show, the Easton Film Festival. I'm here by myself tonight, so I thank you for joining me at your kitchen table with your cup of coffee. We are doing a second show on Filmmakers of Easton with 2 other submissions from the Film Jam, our second place winner and our first place winner. So I encourage you to tune in. This is a Monday night show, so tomorrow night for our second part. I am Lauren Swartz, member of the Easton Film Festival. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night.